Yes, the relay on YouTube. Check it out. Lots of stories about me on there. All the boxing facts and info that you want in a very entertaining, educational manner. The relay. Check it out on YouTube.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay where we're covering today's top boxing news.
I mean, that would have been definitely a great fight between me and Katie Taylor, but I'm on my own path, you know. I'm not going to sit around and wait for Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor needs me. I don't need Katie Taylor. I've left my legacy in the sport of boxing, and I'm not just going to continue to be put on the shelf or be sitting waiting for just one fighter. You know, there's hundreds of girls, thousands of girls. She's not just the only champion. There's tons of other champions in the sport. So, I mean, I have so many options.
Oh, you have so many options. Okay, and which one of those options is a mega fight the size of the Katie Taylor fight?
Which one?
Which one? Which one of those options is as big a fight as that fight?
Which one?
What Amanda's had going on at Combate Americas is flying largely under the radar with everybody, even in the mixed martial arts community, okay? They're not buzzing over anything Amanda's doing in mixed martial arts. Her biggest ticket to be a part of something major, something big, something that's going to grab people's attention is, in fact, the Katie Taylor fight. Yet time and time again, Amanda Serrano is the one slowing things down. Amanda Serrano is always the one focused on doing something else, somewhere else, with someone else. It's always Amanda Serrano. Whether we're talking about unifying titles in a completely different weight class with a completely different champion, or we're talking about participating in an event that isn't even a boxing match, whether it's bare knuckle boxing or mixed martial arts. It's Amanda Serrano who can't seem to keep her eyes on the ball, and I've had enough. I mean, in all honesty, I've had enough. Let's not pretend that it's not Amanda Serrano that's been stifling this fight from the very beginning. It has. She asked for a contract. She got one. She asked for a time frame. She got one. But she's already talking about the Taylor fight in the past tense. So what does that tell you about Amanda Serrano's headspace in regards to that fight? Does she really want it, or is she just trying to find a way out of it and save face? I'll tell you the truth. Katie Taylor doesn't actually need Amanda Serrano to be a part of a big event. I mean, if you saw my previous video, you'll see that Katie Taylor is gearing up to square off against an even more accomplished fighter and a bigger threat than Amanda Serrano. Cecilia Brækhus is not only a more accomplished fighter than Amanda Serrano, but she's a bigger threat because she's a bigger girl, okay?
Okay.
I mean, I know what you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me, well, Amanda, she's been a champion in 7 weight classes. Yeah, and how many champions did she have to beat to get there? How many? I mean, you guys love to bring up how many divisions she's fought in, but you don't actually know any of the opponents that she fought in these weight classes. To date, Amanda Serrano's been a professional boxer since, what, 2009? Yet from 2009 to 2019, going into 2020, she's only actually ever beaten 2 world champions. The second, very recently. The second being Heather Hardy. So don't tell me oh yeah, Amanda's been a champion in 7 weight classes. Hey, I'll tell you something. It's a lot more common to see a multi-division champion than an undisputed champion. You got any variety of fighters that have been world champions in 1, 2, 3 weight classes. In the case of Amanda, 7. But you got more of these kinds of fighters than you have undisputed champions, because in order to be the undisputed champion, you have to consistently fight the very best fighters in your weight class, as opposed to taking opportunities to pick up vacant titles nobody's holding in any myriad of weight classes. There's a reason that multi-division champions are much more common than undisputed champions. And I'm not trying to convince you that Amanda Serrano isn't a good fighter. She is a good fighter. She is one of the most accomplished boxers out there. But don't kid yourself. What you're seeing from Amanda Serrano are cold feet and fear. Fear that you talked yourself into a situation that you weren't necessarily in by saying that they should have sent you the contract as opposed to your sister, and once they sent you the contract, reality set in. That you don't really want this fight, and you never did. You were on your way out of the sport of boxing at the time Katie Taylor fought your sister. You were all but out the door. But you said what you had to say, to save face, to talk up a good one, and when you actually got the contract, you realized you didn't want this fight, you didn't want to be here, you didn't want to have to deal with this.
No way.
And now, 2 fights into what is a 3-fight deal. 2 fights into what is a 3-fight deal, we see Amanda Serrano talking about the Katie Taylor fight in past tense, where Katie Taylor never took the fight off the table. Eddie Hearn never took the fight off the table. Hell, Eddie Hearn gave you a tentative fight date. And it's Amanda Serrano who's talking about this fight as if it's a thing of the past. I'm not going to get into all the hairy details. I'll leave the links to those videos in the description box because I have chronicled this saga closely. And all I see from Amanda Serrano is what I've been seeing, that she doesn't really want this fight. She can go on to unify with Jelena Marjanovic in the 126-pound division. And I'll take it. I still think that's a good fight. And I still think that Amanda is a good fighter. A great fighter, even. But when it comes to the subject of Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano is simply full of shit. And I don't know who she expects to believe her particular line of bullshit. Because for all these divisions that she's fought in, and for all these vacant titles that she's picked up, she simply doesn't have Katie's marquee value. And that's the truth of it. That throughout her entire career, in all these different weight classes, she's never quite gotten the same reaction that Katie Taylor has gotten.
It's the truth.
Let me tell you something. You know, there's nothing wrong with fighting for vacant titles. It happens. Titles go vacant all the time for one reason or another.
They do.
But Amanda Serrano made an active effort to pick up vacant titles. And when she picked up these vacant titles, she seldom ever defended them. Like, okay, fine, you picked up a title that nobody was holding. It's not the end of the world. But are you going to defend it? Are you going to unify it? And what you'll find is that Amanda Serrano didn't do these things. You know, Cecilia Breakus picked up a vacant title or two. She did too.
She did.
The difference, however, is she unified them. She unified them and consistently defended them. All of them. She's been the undisputed champion since 2014. So yeah, vacant titles get picked up all the time. But Amanda Serrano consistently threw hers up in the air to pick up yet another title that nobody was holding. When, okay, look, you could unify this title that you got with another champion at your weight. And you've been campaigning anywhere from 140 to 115. So why didn't you find the time to fight more world champions? That'll get you more attention than just, you know, hopscotching up and down in weight, picking up titles nobody's holding. It's not going to get you a heck of a lot of attention. It's just not.
It hasn't.
It's for this reason that Cecilia Breakus is a far bigger draw in Norway, and she has put up historic numbers with her fights as opposed to Amanda Serrano, who's been a champion in more weight classes, yeah.
She has.
But doesn't put up anywhere near those kinds of numbers in her backyard. What really gets lost whenever this is discussed is in Amanda Serrano, you have a fighter that has campaigned anywhere from 140 to 115. And a lot of guys, they just don't know women's boxing. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay to not know everything. But if you really want to understand this, just imagine that you have a fighter that has campaigned anywhere from where Chocolatito fights to where Regis Prograis and Josh Taylor fought. Look at all those weight classes. And think of all the great fighters anywhere in between those weight classes, anywhere in between from 115 to 140. And imagine that you have a fighter like this, but they never actually fought a Regis Prograis. They never actually fought a Josh Taylor. They never actually fought a Vasyl Lomachenko, a Jorge Linares, you know? Just imagine that you have a fighter that has fought in this many weight classes. They never really fought a Carlos Cuadras or a Chocolatito. You know, they never really fought a Leo Santa Cruz. They never really fought in some ways, they never really even fought a Gervonta Davis. Just imagine that you have a fighter that has fought in this many weight classes with this multitude of good and great fighters, but they didn't fight the vast majority of them. They just perused through these weight classes, picking up titles that no one was holding. And that's not the end of the world. They could always decide to defend them or unify them with the titles of other champions, yet they don't do this. What would you say about a fighter and their career when this is how they've gone about navigating it? That is what we have in Amanda Serrano. That, look, you're a great fighter. Not everybody can become a world champion in that many weight classes. You know, at some point, the fighter, the smoke and mirrors fighter, is going to get exposed. But
there's still something to be said.
The fact of the matter is that, yeah, Amanda's a 7-division champion, but she didn't fight the very best fighters in those 7 weight classes. That's the truth. She beat Heather Hardy very recently at 126. But Heather Hardy is not the best fighter at 126. The argument, that argument really rests with Jelena, the only unified champion at that weight. So it really drives my point home. And all I'm going to say in closing is that this fight looks like it may not happen. And it's looked that way for some time now. But the longer the story drags on, the more that picture is made painfully clear. And we know who to blame, because I reiterate, Katie Taylor never took this fight off the table for Amanda, and Eddie Hearn never took this fight off the table for Amanda. Amanda herself is simply deciding to leave the table. In other news, Up-and-coming prospect and WBC mandatory challenger Devin Haney had this to say. He says, I want Lomachenko right now, not when he's older. And in the article, he was quoted as saying that he views Vasyl Lomachenko as one of the very best fighters out there, and it's for this reason that he wants to fight him. That he's not afraid to lose his he's not afraid to put it on the line against Vasyl Lomachenko because Devin feels that it's a fight he can win. And he feels that in doing so, he'd be breaking through the door to ultimately become a huge star. What do I think about this? What do I think about these quotes? You know, I've seen how some people have reacted to Devin Haney actively, adamantly calling out Vasyl Lomachenko, letting the boxing community and all the pundits at large know that he means to fight him. I've seen how some people have reacted to these call-outs, and I swear to God, you just can't please boxing fans, because there are actually people out there saying Devin Haney is clout-chasing Vasyl Lomachenko, clout-chasing him by lining himself up to fight him. Look, let's make this crystal clear, right? In a sport of boxing, there actually is clout chasing, but that is not the case when it comes to Devin Haney and Vasyl Lomachenko, because there is one distinction that makes all the difference, and it's that Devin Haney is not simply using Vasyl Lomachenko's name to get exposure for himself and his fights. That's not what he's doing. He is actually actively lining himself up for Vasyl Lomachenko. He is, in fact, Vasyl Lomachenko's mandatory challenger for the green belt. So Devin Haney is trying to get that fight. He's not just saying Vasyl Lomachenko's name to get press. He's actually trying to force the fight. He's trying to fight this guy. And all things considered, ladies and gentlemen, that's not clout chasing. That is a fighter doing his job, because Devin Haney is a contender and he's trying to become a champion. And in order for him to do this, he's got to fight a guy like Vasyl Lomachenko. You know, when you got a fighter like Loma, you know, he really captivates people, some more than others. And these people, they go from being fight fans to being caretakers for the fighter. You know, all of a sudden they start getting mad that somebody's calling them out. And I don't understand that fucking shit at all. Because near as I can tell, Devin Haney isn't doing anything wrong by calling out Vasyl Lomachenko. In fact, that's what's expected of him as a fighter, as a prospect turned contender, and as a contender who wants to become a champion. He's only doing what he's supposed to do. How is that clout chasing? This isn't like what Lara did with Gennady Golovkin all those years, calling him out but never actually taking a step in his direction. Devin Haney really wants that fight, and he's lining himself up for it. Yet there are people out there who are critical of this. They're actually mad that Devin's calling him out.
The fuck?
And the whole time I'm looking at this, I'm thinking to myself, well, what if Devin Haney did the opposite? What if he acted like Vasyl Lomachenko didn't exist? What if instead of trying to fight him, he tried not to fight him? In fact, he worked to get away from him. Well, wouldn't he be subject to the same criticism that Gervonta Davis is subject to?
Yeah, he would be.
The biggest problem people have had with Gervonta Davis the last couple of years is how hard he's worked to get away from Vasyl Lomachenko. So why the fuck would anybody criticize Devin Haney for doing the opposite of that? You know that Devin Haney's never been a world champion, not yet. He's not a two-time world champion the way that Gervonta Davis is, yet Devin, unlike
The princess.
Gervonta, he wants that fight. And he doesn't want it after time has ravaged Vasyl Lomachenko. He doesn't want it after he's been through the ringer a couple of times and he's slowed down and showing signs of decline. No, he wants him now, while he's fresh, while he's still one of the best fighters in the world. And you guys are actually criticizing him for this?
Use the fuck out of me.
Something tells me you're not really boxing fans. You're just a bunch of grown men on another grown man's fucking dick.
Dick!
Because I just don't understand that shit. Look, I'm not telling you that I think Devin Haney is ready for that fight. In all honesty, I don't think he's ready for that fight. I think he's rushing himself into a situation that he really doesn't need to be in. Not yet. If Devin Haney so decided, and his team, if they so decided to take their foot off the gas a bit and not rush him into that situation because he's young, he's still got more room to grow, if they decided to do that, I wouldn't even hold it against him. But he's doing the opposite of that. He's showing courage. He's showing ambition. He's not shying away from the challenge of fighting Vasyl Lomachenko the same way that Gervonta Davis did, the same way that Jezreel Corrales did. No, Devin Haney wants all the problems. He wants all of the proverbial smoke. And you guys are mad at him over this?
Get the fuck off Loma's dick, man.
How does it get to a point where you become such a big fan of a fighter that you don't actually want him to fight? You actually advocate against him fighting certain people. This isn't a situation to where the fight doesn't make sense. The fight actually does make sense because Devin Haney, you know, he fought Zaur Abdullayev in what was a WBC final eliminator for the green belt, and it just so happens that Vasyl Lomachenko is in possession of the green belt. So there's certainly a precedence for the fight. And the same thing can be said in regards to Teofimo Lopez and what were his call-outs to Vasyl Lomachenko. We know that Teofimo is about to fight Richard Commey in contention for the red belt on the undercard of Crawford versus Kavaliauskas. And Teofimo calling out Vasyl Lomachenko, it ruffled some people's feathers. They didn't like it. They don't like somebody calling out their man crush, their favorite male fighter. They don't like that shit. And I'm thinking to myself, look, Teofimo thinks he can beat that guy. His team seems to think they can beat that guy. And they're lining themselves up for that fight by getting something that Vasyl Lomachenko wants. Because Vasyl Lomachenko wants all the belts. Well, Teofimo wants Vasyl Lomachenko, so he's getting a belt. That way he can get Lomachenko. And you guys are mad at him over this? You want to see him get beat up? All this different stuff? Give me a fucking break. The nature of your problem is not Teofimo Lopez or Devin Haney. The nature of your problem is you got a crush on Vasyl Lomachenko. That's what it really fucking is. Because you guys are actually mad that other fighters want to fight him when they're all fucking fighters, and that's what they're supposed to do.
They're supposed to fight.
You're mad that Gervonta doesn't want to fight Lomachenko, but you're mad that Teofimo and Devin do want to fight him? There's no pleasing you fucking people. I think the same thing about Teofimo that I think about Devin. They're young guys. They got plenty of room to grow. It's too soon for these two young guys to be fighting the likes of Vasyl Lomachenko. That's what I think. That's my anecdote. That's my honest opinion. But you know what? Maybe they know something I don't know. Maybe they prove me wrong. Maybe they prove you wrong. At the end of the day, it is their job to climb up those ranks and contend for world titles and fight world-class fighters. You guys get mad whenever you see a guy isn't doing this. So why are you getting mad at these two guys?
The fuck's your problem?
I'm not telling you I think they're ready for that fight. I'm telling you they're not ready for that fight, as far as I'm concerned. But you know what? Let them have it. That's their job. That's their 9 to 5. That's what they do. That's what they train for. That's what they prepare for. To take on world-class fighters. So what's wrong with two young guys wanting to fight Vasyl Lomachenko? Are you guys afraid that they're going to win? Is that what it is? Because it does kind of read like fear. That's what it reads like you're afraid that a guy like Devin Haney might just beat Vasyl Lomachenko, and that upsets you. You don't want him calling him out. That's what it looks like to me, that you guys are actually afraid that he'll get beat. What are you, his mother?
What the fuck's wrong with you?
I have to say that in over 3 decades, a little over 3 decades of being a fight fan, from the days of Chavez versus Camacho till now, this is by far the strangest generation of fight fans I've ever seen. Because this is a generation of fight fans that actually advocate against fights, against titillating matches. They get overprotective of fighters. I mean, why don't you just run in the ring and take the punches then? You love the guy so goddamn much. You don't want him to fight Devin Haney? That makes you mad? You don't want him to fight Teofimo Lopez? That makes you mad? I'm not proposing that Vasyl Lomachenko go up there to welterweight or junior middleweight. I'm just saying that if these guys are putting in the legwork to get that fight, then what's the problem? Where is the room for criticism? What are you expecting them to do? Do you want them to ignore him and act like he doesn't exist? Would that make you happy? No, it wouldn't. I know what would make you happy. To put Vasyl Lomachenko's old in your mouth and for you to blow.